And now I feel like surfing's borrowing from skating. Absolutely.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about Tony Hawk, the man who's done it all in skateboarding, from inventing tricks to skating the biggest ramps in the world to still pushing the culture forward in his 50s. Recently, Tony sat down for a podcast and made some really interesting comments about surfing. And let's just say, it caught a lot of people off guard. So we're going to break down what he said, talk about the dangers of surfing, and compare it to Tony's long list of skateboarding injuries. And then I'll give you my own take on whether he has a point. And that's the crazy thing about Tony. You think you've heard it all, and then he drops something new that makes you rethink the whole game. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because it's not just about what he said, it's about what it means and even how we look at risk in general. So stick around because we're gonna break it all down. But first, I want to talk about something else Tony's been working on that you might not expect. Did you know Tony Hawk is opening up a chicken sandwich restaurant? Yeah, you heard that right. The Birdman isn't just the face of skateboarding, he's also stepping into the food world with a spot in SoCal called Chicken Hawk. Now, Tony's always been more than just a skater. He's built skate parks across the world through Skate Park Project, he's done movie cameos and commercials, and now he's dipping into the culinary scene. And he's not phoning it either. He teamed up with Chef Bachlier, who's the real deal, and even brought in Shepard Fairey, the legendary street artist, to lace the space up with some artwork. They've already done a few pop-ups, and word is the sandwiches are pretty fire. And of course, Tony had to tie it back to skating. The Birdhouse squad already stopped by and broke the place in with a quick session. So yeah, Tony Hawk is out here running a chicken sandwich spot. Only Tony can make food, art, and skating collide like that. What I love about this is it shows Tony's still evolving. Like, he could have just retired and lived off his legacy, but instead, he's out here starting businesses, teaming up with artists, and doing things that are totally outside of skating. And honestly, that's inspiring because it proves you can keep reinventing yourself even decades after people thought you'd hit your peak. It makes me wonder, what's next for him? Maybe a coffee shop, maybe a new clothing line, who knows? But whatever it is, you know it's gonna have that Birdman stamp of approval. Before we keep going, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. If you're into skateboarding news, sneaker drops, and stories just like this, you're in the right place. And hey, drop a comment if you'd pull up to Chicken Hawk, because I know I would. So before we get into Tony's comments about surfing, let's not forget, this dude had some of the worst injuries in skateboarding. Back in 2021, he broke his femur in a slam that a lot of people thought would end his skating career. He had to go through surgery, months of rehab, and relearn how to walk. Most people would have hung it up right there. But Tony came back, and that's just one injury. Over the years, he's dealt with concussions, broken teeth, cracked ribs, rolled ankles, you name it. The Birdman has been through it all, and he still gets back on his board. So when a guy who survived all that has something to say about surfing, yeah, it's worth listening to. All right, so let's talk about what Tony actually said. He was on Rob Lowe's podcast, and during their conversation, he admitted he's not exactly a fan of surfing. In fact, he had some pretty eye-opening comments about why it makes him uncomfortable. Rob Lowe was caught off guard. You could tell he couldn't believe what he was hearing, and Tony backed it up with some reasoning that honestly makes a lot of sense once you think about it. We'll get into those comments in a second, but first, let's look at why surfing might not be as chill as people think.
It's something Most dangerous place I've ever surfed, Half Moon Bay in Mavericks. There's been, I know a couple of my friends have died there. There's been multiple great white attacks there. There's been 2 or 3 great white attacks there. So it's got every element of fear. The water's cold. It's one of the most intense waves you'll ever see.
Surfing might look like paradise, but the risks are real. Some of the best surfers in the world have lost their lives chasing massive swells. Mark Fu, a legend in the sport, drowned at Mavericks back in 1994 after a heavy wipeout. More recently, big wave spots like Nazaré in Portugal and Jaws in Hawaii have sent surfers to the hospital or worse. The ocean is unpredictable. Waves don't care about how good you are, and when something goes wrong, it goes wrong fast. So when Tony explains why he feels uneasy about surfing, it starts to click. He compared it to skating, something he understands and has decades of experience with, versus surfing, where the ocean is completely out of your control. Falling on a ramp, brutal, but predictable. Wiping out on a wave, now that's chaos. And that's why Tony says he feels safer on a 30-foot ramp than in the lineup for a monster swell.
I'm terrified of huge waves.
Wow.
And then people are like, but you'll ride a 30-foot ramp. Like, that ramp is not going to come after me if I fall. You know what I mean?
It's not going to hold you down.
It's not going to hold me down and bury me. And then another one's coming after it.
So what do I think? Honestly, I'm with him on this one. I'd rather take a slam on a ramp than get dragged under by a massive wave. With skating, you can at least see what's about to happen. With surfing, you don't always get that warning. Skating is gnarly, no doubt, but if Tony Hawk, who's lived through decades of broken bones and brutal injuries, says surfing scares him more, yeah, I believe him. So yeah, hearing Tony admit he's not into surfing might sound funny at first, but when you really break it down, it makes a lot of sense. Both are dangerous in their own way, but I get why he feels the way he does. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment letting me know, do you agree with Tony? Is surfing actually scarier than skating a 30-foot vert ramp, or do you think he's overreacting? Anyway, I appreciate you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.